are the ones who are opposing the repeal of Article 370 or the promulgation of it? It is mainly the politicians based in Jammu and Kashmir, the National Conference, the PDP, or in many ways what is called the Gupkar Alliance. They have hit out at the government at the centre for this abrogation, and this happened minutes after it was announced. Listen in to what these netas have said.
इन्होंने तो 370 खत्म करके हिंदुस्तान की जो आईन है उसको तबाह बर्बाद कर दिया है। आईन के मुताबिक तो नहीं चलता है इस वक्त पूरा मुल्क या जम्मू कश्मीर। ये तो आरएसएस के और बीजेपी के जो उनका एजेंडा है कि जो माइनॉरिटीज है उनको दबाना है, क्योंकि जम्मू कश्मीर एक मुस्लिम मेजॉरिटी स्टेट है, इसलिए हमारे ऊपर ज्यादा से ज्यादा सितम किया जा रहा है। हमें कोई आजादी नहीं है, बात करने की आजादी नहीं है।
और उन्होंने आर्टिकल 370 को लेकर ये कहा कि हमें ये कबूल नहीं है, और जब तक आप आर्टिकल 370 को रिस्टोर नहीं करेंगे हम रुकने वाले नहीं हैं, क्योंकि तुम्हारे पास अब ये खुला मामला हो गया है। अल्लाह करे कि उनके इस जोर से हमारे लोगों को मदद मिले और हमारा ये 370 और 35A रिस्टोर हो।
जहाँ तक नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस का सवाल है, हमने हमेशा कहा है कि इस रियासत की शनाख्त, इस रियासत की खसूसी पोजीशन जो है उसको हम नुकसान होने नहीं देंगे, चाहे सियासी तौर हमें इसका मुकाबला करना पड़े, चाहे कानूनी तौर हमें इन साजिशों का मुकाबला करना पड़े, जो हम वैसे भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट में 35A को बचाने के लिए जो मुकदमा लड़ा जा रहा है उसमें हमारा वकील जो है वो भी काम कर रहा है। तो हम अपनी कोशिशों में कोई कमी या कोई कमजोरी आने नहीं देंगे।
So what has the government said about the changes that we have seen specifically from 2019 to 2023, which are 4 years since that very big decision that was taken? It was filled with risk, but what have we seen in the Kashmir Valley? Now, the government has given some data as well and numbers. Between 2018, when the terror incidents were reported around 228, and anyone who has witnessed Kashmir Valley will tell you that mass violence, protests, stone pelting was an almost daily affair. In 2023, the terror incidents have been reported at about 41. This is until 15th of November. Now, the civilians killed, 2018, tragically, were about 55. In 2013, that number has considerably come down to about 13. Again, this is about mid-November, the data that has come, which means that there are, of course, deaths and casualties still taking place, but the number has come significantly down. But the security personnel guarding our country, guarding the borders. In 2018, the casualties before the abrogation stood at about 91. In 2023, it has come to about 20. That is the significant decline that we have seen specifically as per the ground reality and with the political will, the state mandate that has been shown as well. Anisha Mathur is at the Supreme Court, where that verdict is set to be delivered. I want to go across to her now. Anisha, this is going to be very interesting. It is in many ways as historic as the announcement that was made on 5th August 2019 to what the court decides. What do you think, with the hearings that you have also followed between the bench, the petitioners and the government, what will be the crux that the verdict will be delivered on?
Well, Pooja, we've been discussing this since the morning. The basic crux of today's verdict will be whether the centre could have abrogated Article 370 in the way that it did. Nobody is saying that it could not have ever been abrogated. The question really is how it could have been abrogated. Was there a mandate to have the consent of an elected legislative assembly of the state? Whether the governor could, as a nominee of the president, have given consent to such abrogation, and more importantly, once this decision was taken, the Jammu Kashmir Reorganization Act that was passed by the parliament that took away the status of a state from Jammu and Kashmir and divided it into 2 union territories, could the parliament have done that without the consent of the state legislature? Now, because all of that is a very hugely political issue as well, but legally the basic question is, under the Constitution of India, there is a question of federalism, the power of the states, the consent required of a state to amend the Constitution. The allegation that the parties which have challenged Article 370 abrogation have raised is that the centre acted in violation of this principle that requires consent of the state and the people of the state. Now, the question the court really will answer is who really represents the will of the people, whether it is the parliament, whether it is the state assembly, and whether there was a mandatory requirement to have consent of the state. What is the status really of Article 370 as far as the ability to abrogate the particular article is concerned, and the process, most important, of whether it is, as has been alleged by the petitioners, whether it is something that is being unilaterally illegally done by the centre, or is it that the centre, the Parliament of India, as the supreme representative of India's people, has all the powers to take a decision when it
it's going to be very important what the top court decides, what the verdict will be, and importantly whether it will be a unanimous verdict, will it be a split verdict, all of that, and what will be the observations made in it. Each sentence, remember, is going to be very crucial for the precedent that it may set. But let's go on the ground again, and I reiterate that because it's important to understand, for a region that was facing and was immersed in conflict for 30 years at least, the number of fatalities that we had seen, the number of disturbances that we had seen in Kashmir Valley, did anything change in J&K since 2019? Here's what some of the data and the numbers that we have. Stone pelting, which was a common affair, including children who were pushed into pelting stones, and in turn there was either crossfire, there were violence that was reported. That has reduced by 97.2%. You wouldn't have seen a mass violence incident from 2019 to 2023, and that for many has been surprising of how Kashmir was earlier. Terrorism, while still prevails, has reduced by about 45.2%. So there are, of course, terror attacks that are taking, but the strategies have changed. The manner in which the frequency it was there earlier has now come down to 45.2%. The one big change that we have seen, normal to you and I across India, the mode of entertainment, cinema, has returned to the Kashmir Valley, and not just Srinagar city, but also in Baramulla and Handwara, which were once considered as hotbed of terror activities. Remember, Kashmir Valley depends heavily on tourism, but for the past 3 decades, it had faced off and on disturbances, causing a lot of losses, not just to the tourism industry, to the businessmen, to the business community, but also that has seen a revival now in the past 4 years. But eventually it will be about the opportunities that come to people of Jammu and Kashmir. And that has seen an increase in government recruitment, in the examination, the services, that has seen change. And remember, a lot will have to be done here on as well, but that sea change has clearly been noticeable. But what about something that may not be visible on the ground, but has happened because of the purge of Article 370? Have there been changes on that front? Let's take a look at that. One was noticeable for women. Now, women, according to Article 35A, because they were permanent residents then, but if they were to marry a resident of not Jammu and Kashmir, they would have lost the right of property and inheritance to be given to their children. That has gone. That is cancelled. Now they can marry whoever they want and still be eligible for inheritance and properties right. But what has changed considerably, of course, is the separate flag that was there earlier for Jammu and Kashmir. There was a separate constitution for Jammu and Kashmir. That has gone. So while earlier there was a J&K flag and a tricolour, now only the tricolour is hoisted atop the secretariat or government buildings. Now, a norm that is across India for anyone, which is also applicable for Jammu and Kashmir. Any Indian citizen can buy a property in Jammu and Kashmir, just like any resident of J&K could buy property in rest of the country. Then there was a penal code, for example, criminal cases, like there is the Indian Penal Code. For Jammu and Kashmir, it was the RPC, the Ranbir Penal Code. That has ended. It is IPC that will be applicable for J&K too, which means thereby central laws and schemes, all the laws that are applicable or schemes or policies available to all across India will now be applicable to Jammu and Kashmir also and to its residents. Does that also mean it will now give equal rights to OBCs, Dalits and tribals, to all the scheduled tribes, scheduled castes? The schemes that are announced, the welfare schemes that are implemented will now be available to those also in the Jammu and Kashmir, which is now a union territory, but also to those who, for example, were refugees like POJK, Valmiki, Dalits, all of that. But let's understand now the ground sentiment. Remember that Jammu reacted very differently with a lot of hope and cheer that they will not be discriminated anymore, while Kashmir felt that all their rights will now be taken away and they will feel imposed likely by those coming in from other states. What is the situation today? In Jammu, Kamaljeet Sandhu is joining me for the latest, and from Srinagar is Ashraf Wani. So I want to go across now to first Ashraf, because Kashmir will be the focus. It has been the focus with regard to conflict, and it will be the focus if there is any change that can be seen. What do you think this verdict signifies for the Kashmir Valley today, Ashraf?
Pooja, basically this verdict will end the whatever, in what way it comes, it will end all the perceptions and hopes of the political parties mainly, because since 5th August 2019, Supreme Court was only the thing what was being sold and seen by the political parties in the Jammu and Kashmir. That is why they approached the Supreme Court after the abrogation of Article 370 here in the Jammu and Kashmir.